a quiet place to notice. Welcome to CatFactsFunny, a place where we slow down enough to notice the small things cats do when they think no one is paying attention, the moments that don't look important at first, but somehow stay with us long after they happen because they carry meaning we don't always recognize right away. Today's story begins with a feeling many cat guardians recognize immediately, even if they've never put it into words before. That gentle, slightly unsettling sense that your cat knows you in a way that feels deeper than habit or routine, as if they are not just sharing your space, but quietly learning who you are. The feeling you can't name. There are moments when your cat appears before you realize you needed comfort, moments when they keep their distance on days your energy feels unsettled, moments when the way they look at you feels less like curiosity and more like recognition, and those moments are not imagination, coincidence, or projection. They are the result of attention that has been building quietly over time. Your cat has been watching you for a long time. You live with kind of energy decoder. Your voice, marked as home. They know your voice in a way that goes far beyond sound, because it isn't just the noise you make that they recognize, it's the rhythm of it, the emotional weight carried inside it, the subtle differences between when you're calm, distracted, tired, or trying to sound cheerful when you're not, and even when your cat chooses not to respond. Because cats are very skilled at choosing when to respond. Their body gives them away. Their ears shift, their posture changes, their attention quietly turns toward you, because your voice has been stored as something familiar and important, something that belongs to their world. When your body changes, they notice first. And while your voice is one of the first things your cat learns, it's far from the only thing they notice, because cats experience the world through layers of information we can't access. And when your body changes even slightly, your cat feels it before you do, through scent, through warmth, through the way you move and breathe without thinking about it. And this is why so many people notice their cats staying closer when they don't feel well, or watching them more carefully on days something feels off. Not because the cat understands illness, but because they recognize difference, and difference always matters to an animal that pays attention. Reading your face before words exist. Your cat also watches your face more than you realize, noticing tiny changes you don't consciously register. The tension around your eyes when you're stressed, the softness that appears when you feel safe, the subtle shifts that happen before words ever form, and often your cat responds to those changes before you even understand what you're feeling yourself, which is why sometimes they approach gently, and other times they choose to give you space, because they have already read the situation. In a language made of movement and expression rather than speech. Feeling your emotions early. Emotions don't begin in the mind, they begin in the body, and your cat is deeply attuned to those early signals, sensing stress, sadness, or calm through chemical and behavioral shifts that happen quietly beneath your awareness, which is why your cat sometimes reacts before you consciously realize something inside you has changed. Not because they are guessing, but because they are responding to information that reaches them sooner. Before a feeling becomes a thought, your body has already spoken, through a slight tightening of muscles, a change in breathing, a subtle shift in scent that you would never notice yourself, and your cat, who lives much closer to these quiet physical truths, registers those changes as clearly as a sound or a movement, because their world is built on signals that arrive before words. That is why your cat may appear beside you on an ordinary afternoon that suddenly feels heavier than it should, or choose to sit nearby without asking for attention, as if they sense the beginning of something before it had a name, responding not to what you are thinking, but to what your body has already started to carry. Living inside your rhythm. Over time, your cat doesn't just learn how you feel, they learn how you live, memorizing the rhythm of your days in a way that feels almost uncanny, recognizing the difference between workdays and quiet mornings, knowing when you usually wake up, when you tend to come home, when your energy feels rushed and when it feels slow, and this is why they appear at the door before you arrive, why they wake you just before your alarm, why their internal clock seems synced to yours, because your life has a rhythm and your cat has learned it by heart. This rhythm isn't learned quickly or consciously, but slowly, through repetition and presence, through the sound of keys at a certain hour, the way your footsteps change when you're tired, the difference between mornings when you linger and mornings when you move with purpose, moments that feel insignificant to you, but form a reliable pattern to an animal that watches closely. And once this rhythm becomes familiar, your cat begins to move within it effortlessly, resting when you rest, waiting when you are about to return, adjusting their own patterns around yours, not because they are dependent, but because shared time naturally pulls living beings into sync. Watching what moves you and what settles you. They also notice what makes you tense and what helps you relax, paying attention to how you respond to certain people, places, and situations, learning which moments change your energy and which ones restore it, and over time they adapt their behavior accordingly, staying closer when comfort feels right, keeping distance when space feels safer, not out of judgment or strategy, but out of awareness, because understanding your emotional landscape helps them navigate their shared world with you. Your cat learns these things quietly, by watching your posture shift in certain conversations, by noticing when your voice tightens or softens, by recognizing the moments when you exhale more slowly, when your shoulders finally drop, when the room feels calmer without anyone saying a word. And as this understanding deepens, your cat's choices begin to reflect it, approaching gently when calm feels fragile, stepping back when emotions feel sharp, positioning themselves not to demand anything, but to fit into the emotional shape of the moment, as if saying, without sound, that they are paying attention and have been all along. Language made only for you. And somewhere along the way, without either of you noticing exactly when it happened, your cat created a language just for you, shaping sounds, tones, and timing based on what gets your attention, what brings comfort, what earns a response. Because adult cats don't meow to each other the way they meow to humans. Those sounds exist because cats learned that humans respond to them. And your cat has refined that language specifically through interactions with you, until certain sounds mean certain things in a way that feels unmistakable. Knowing when something isn't true. Your cat also knows when something doesn't quite add up, when your words don't match your energy, when your actions feel inconsistent, which is why they hesitate in certain moments, why they don't always fall for tricks more than once, why they sometimes pause and observe instead of reacting immediately, not because they are being stubborn, but because they are sensitive to authenticity, and they wait for the full picture before deciding what to do. The choice that explains everything. And all of this attention, all of this learning, leads to the quiet truth at the center of your relationship, the truth that makes everything else make sense. Your cat chose you not in a dramatic or conscious way, but in the steady accumulation of attention, in the decision to learn your patterns, adapt to your rhythms, and synchronize their life with yours, because knowing someone this deeply takes effort, and effort is never random. Every slow blink, every moment they choose to sit near you instead of somewhere else, every glance that lingers just a second longer than necessary, is evidence of that choice, proof that your cat decided you were worth understanding, worth observing, worth adapting to. The quiet agreement. There is something quietly profound about the way a cat knows a person, because it is never loud, never announced, never proven in ways that demand recognition. It simply exists in the background of everyday life, in the way they wait without asking, watch without staring, stay without needing a reason. Cats don't rush to understand, and they don't need constant reassurance. They gather information slowly, patiently, through thousands of ordinary moments that seem insignificant on their own, but together form a complete picture of who you are when no one is performing, when no one is pretending, when life is just happening as it always does. And perhaps that is why being known by a cat feels different from being known by anyone else, because their understanding isn't shaped by words, promises, or expectations, but by consistency, presence, and the small truths you reveal without realizing you're revealing anything at all. Your cat knows you in the quiet hours, in the in-between moments, in the pauses where nothing is happening and everything is real, and they accept that version of you without commentary, without correction, without demand. In a world that constantly asks us to explain ourselves, improve ourselves, or prove ourselves, that kind of knowing is rare, and maybe that's why it feels so grounding, so safe, so unexpectedly meaningful. Because to be known without being judged is a kind of trust, and your cat offers it simply by staying. So the next time your cat looks at you with those calm, watchful eyes, remember what you're seeing, not mystery, not indifference, but a being who has spent countless quiet moments learning who you are, noticing your patterns, your pauses, and the versions of yourself you don't always show to the world, and continues to choose you in ways that don't need words to be real. That kind of knowing doesn't ask for proof or explanation. It exists in the small, ordinary moments that pass without ceremony, in the shared silence, in the gentle presence that doesn't try to fix anything, but simply stays, offering companionship without conditions or expectations. If this story felt familiar, you're not alone, because many people live inside this quiet understanding without ever naming it. And if you've ever experienced a moment when your cat seemed to know something before you did, a feeling, a shift, a need you hadn't yet recognized yourself, share it in the comments, because these subtle connections are more common and more meaningful than we often allow ourselves to believe. And maybe that's the gift cats offer us. Not answers, not explanations, but a reminder that being seen doesn't always require words, that being understood doesn't always arrive loudly, and that sometimes the deepest bonds are formed in the spaces where nothing is demanded and everything is simply allowed to be. This is CatFactsFunny, and here we notice the things that matter quietly.